Hello everyone, I'm Megan and today we will be going through the process of my reindeer art piece for Christmas 2024. To get started, I am first laying down the base colors with the lasso tool on my sketch and I'm seeing what works. I'm figuring out all the markings and I'm even starting to figure out the form of the deer. Please also let me know if you are interested in my sketching process. For this video, I did cut it off just because of how long it already is, and I honestly didn't know if people would even be interested in looking at it, but let me know in the comments down below and I'll make sure to include it next time if there's enough interest. I'll also be talking on and off throughout the video and letting you guys enjoy the painting process. If you have any questions as well, I'll be more than happy to answer them down below. And so once I am done putting down my base colors, that's when I really start to actually paint. So I'm not afraid in this step to paint over my sketch. And I really start the rendering process. And I can't forget that little red nose for Rudolph. And for some reason, okay, I don't know why, but I just love adding blushes to characters. I just think it's so cute. Obviously, I try to make it sort of subtle, and this will look even more subtle in the final product, but for whatever reason, blushes, man, they're just so cute. But anyways, I digress. I also, in this step, I start thinking about where my lighting is going to be, and for this piece I really wanted the light source to be on the top and I want that face to be just sweet and well lit and just like I want it to pop and be very friendly. I want this whole illustration to be welcoming and friendly. And since this is my first video, I wanted to take a little bit of time to introduce myself. Again, my name is Megan. I was actually born in Brazil, so that's why you may be hearing a little bit of an accent from me. But currently I live in sunny Florida. And ever since I was a child, I've always been drawing and creating things. I was very creative kid growing up, and I've especially loved drawing animals. I was the type of child to sit on the TV and watch Animal Planet all day, and Steve Irwin was one of my favorite shows. I mean, I just loved it, but I do draw other things as well. But don't be surprised if you see a lot of animal paintings in my channel. And now I'm actually starting to add a little bit more light into this painting. I super apologize that this is so tiny right now. I really like to zoom out as much as I can to really see the big picture and not focus so much on the details. If I zoom in, guys, it's over. I'm gonna be stuck on those details forever. So to combat that, I really try to zoom out, especially in the beginning, and not, fall for that trap of wanting to paint the eye fully, and then before you know it, the eye doesn't match the whole body. Now that I'm feeling pretty satisfied with how the whole picture is looking like, I am zooming in a little bit for rendering the face. I prefer rendering the face first just to get a feel for how the painting is going to go. This is still in the very early beginning of the rendering process for me. So you will see that it's still gonna look a little bit rough. I go through lots of passes, and once again, I am going through that liner and trying to get rid of as much of that as possible, just because it's done its duty, and I am more of the type to prefer more of the painted look. than to have more of like a sketchy looking line art going on, if that makes sense. One of my very first struggles with this painting was definitely this nose. For one, it needed to be red, and for two, I wanted it to glow because it's Rudolph. But I think after a couple passes, I managed to make it look pretty nice in the end. But definitely, this was one of my first quote unquote fights with this painting. As far as brushes goes, I tend to be a little bit more basic. I usually really enjoy the good old round brush. That's what I've used this entire painting. But sometimes I also like a little bit of texture. So like a chalkboard or chalk brush I really enjoy, or even a watercolor one. But 9 times out of 10, my work is done with the good old reliable, simple, round brush. As always, I'm also making sure to flip the canvas every so often and zoom out. This is all so your eye doesn't get used to what you're seeing and you don't see possible mistakes. So it's always a good thing to flip your canvas every once in a while. It's so helpful. On the neck area, I had the idea of perhaps making the neck a little bit darker, and I really like to explore new ideas in my paintings and seeing if they work or not. I strongly believe that if you are flexible with your art and your paintings and you're not afraid of making those mistakes, you learn a lot faster and you may even make your painting better. So I'm always an advocate for being flexible with your paintings. And here we are in my second fight or challenge with this painting. It was these two front legs. I really struggled getting them to look right. I think the anatomy was a little bit off for me. So I just kept painting over it and trying new things. Like very soon you will see that I will paint over it completely and seeing if I like it better in like a darker color. You see that now I'm just changing the shape entirely. Again, I like being flexible and realizing, you know what, this area I don't love as much, so let me try to play around with it and see if I can find a solution to my problem. And since this is a Christmas painting, I wanted to open up the conversation of what is your favorite Christmas movie? I know for me, that's a bit of a hard question because I haven't actually watched that many Christmas movies. I did watch sort of the classics like The Grinch, and Nightmare Before Christmas, and some of those old, Rudolph films, but I haven't watched much else. It was really when I got older that I started watching a little bit more. And funny enough, I actually love a movie called Tokyo Godfathers. It's actually a Japanese film, and believe it or not, it is a Christmas movie. And it's such a lovely little film about coincidences and the good of people, and it's become one of my favorite little films to watch around this time of year, as well as Claws on Netflix, or at least it's on Netflix right now. But I love Claws. I was actually fortunate enough to meet the directors for it over at CTNX when I graduated, and they were such lovely people, and I was so thankful that I even got to talk to them, and they were so sweet. The movie itself, I mean, I think that may be my favorite. It's such a lovely film, and I highly recommend you watch it. It's also animated, which I just love animated films in general. So high recommendations from me. We are continuing on our rendering process here, starting to look a little bit better than before, a little bit more details here and there. I actually added those little wisps of feathers in the hooves. I just thought, you know what? Rudolph can fly, so why not add a little bit of feathers to it, you know what I mean? So, and I thought it looked cute. I don't know about you, but I think it looks cute. Here, I'm also starting to think about how that harness is gonna work. I knew I wanted it to look obviously very Christmassy, but I didn't want it to be, um, I didn't want it to look like a horse. That was my struggle with it, where I was like, I got a couple references of some actual reindeer, sort of tack that they use in real life. And I used that as a base for my ideas and how I thought this may work in real life. Obviously, this isn't such a super realistic painting, but I like my drawings to be based in reality. So I went a little bit experimental here as well. I wanted it to have a lot of movement too. I really wanted this piece to be pretty. And we are on the background. The background really was me just having fun. I mean, I had an idea that I wanted this to be more sky with clouds, and I wanted obviously Rudolph to be the focal point, so I didn't want the background to take away from him. And in the beginning, I actually added a couple trees, which you'll see in a second. I was really just experimenting and having fun, and I thought in the end, it turned out pretty good, but you'll see that there's a lot of change. At first, I really liked the trees. I thought they added, something a little different, but then I thought maybe it looks too much like an avalanche. So maybe we should remove the trees. I don't know. You guys let me know if you prefer with the trees or without. And remember how I said the nose really gave me a hard time? Yeah, the glow on this nose really gave me a headache. I didn't really know how I wanted it to look like, if I wanted it more of a shooting light type of thing or this look. This is what I found that looked best. Now, you have to please excuse me that I once again lost a little bit of footage here, but my solution was to create that white first and then goes the red around it, and then it fades into the background, and do a little bit of raise with the white. I'm not sure if that was the most perfect solution, but I feel like it ended up looking kind of cute. Again, you guys let me know. So while we are working on these antlers, I actually wanted to share a bit of new knowledge that I've gained while drawing this piece. I had a lot of different reference pictures, for this drawing, and I ended up finding out that there's actually 43 species of deer in the world. And I just didn't know that. I didn't know that they were so different from each other and so unique in how they look and act. And I was just so fascinated. Clearly, okay, if you are a deer connoisseur and you're looking at my art right now, you are looking at this and you're thinking, this is an abomination. And look, with my defense, okay, my defense here, I just drew something to look cute. I felt that reindeer, if I made Rudolph a true reindeer, it would look a little too chunky for me. I wanted him to look very athletic and, you know, at the same time, I didn't want him to look like a very skinny deer because I wanted him to look powerful at the same time because he has to pull that sled. So I wanted a weird mix. So this is a weird hybrid of different species, and I hope you're not mad at me. Honestly, I highly doubt anyone cares this much about drawing deer species properly. But seriously, I didn't know that there were so many different types. It's almost like Pokemon. Oh my god. Back to the painting. I'm just cleaning up some of those edges and still continuing to render it. Now here is another sort of experimental. I'm just not sure why that neck area, the shape of it just didn't bring me joy. So I started playing around with the shape a little bit more, and I think I did end up improving it a lot more. I didn't want it to be just, it just felt a little too rounded to me, I think. I want to say that now we are starting to add those extra details in on the rendering, especially on the face. I really do enjoy adding lots and lots of detail on the face, especially the eye. The muzzle was also an area that I tried working back and forth. I even tried different markings in there. I just had noticed in my reference that technically deer have that brown spot near the nose rather than that white around the nose, but I felt that it just looked better this way. The eyes as well, I went through a couple passes. I wanted it to have a vintage feel and still look very cute with a little heart. I wanted it to be a little stylized as well, so that took me a couple passes to get it quite right. We are finally at the rendering process for the tag section. Now the tag was interesting because I actually redid a little bit of it. Specifically this neck piece right here, there was just something off about it. At the time I thought maybe it was just there was so much red in this piece that maybe I should add a little bit more green, or even just keep the red as a little section like it looks right now. But I ended up actually putting a lot more green in there, and here I am also making some decisions about those little details, if they're gonna be swirly, if they're gonna be little icicle pieces. And it was just a lot of little decisions that matter a lot for the end piece. As I'm working on this tech, I'm always double checking my reference and seeing what works, what I can exaggerate, what I can't exaggerate. And I noticed that these bells were getting a little lost in all of that detail, and I thought it would be fun if I could exaggerate their size a little bit. Same for the bell, I will make it bigger in the future. Sometimes it's good to have contrast between your art. It also it just makes it more fun to look at and not as boring per se. But I will be adjusting these little bells a lot throughout this painting. It's also good to note to be careful with tangents. Right now, looking at this piece, I can definitely see that Big Bell is having a tangent with the elbow or the arm of the deer. You really want to be careful with having tangents in your artwork, as it really hinders readability for your viewer. You really want your drawings to be as clear as possible. And sometimes when there's those tangents, our brain can get a little confused as to where something begins and where something ends. And as you can see, I am once again really playing around with these little bells. I just wasn't pleased with their placement, so I really took my time to make sure to move them around, maybe redraw them here and there, just because I really want them to look as good as they possibly can. Again, never be afraid to change up your artwork. Like here, I said no to this red and I went full on to the green. And if that doesn't work, that's okay. You've tried it, and you can always change it, especially on digital art. I also thought it would be really cute if I added these swirlies and almost little flower drawings into the neck piece. And again, I'm so sorry that I lost a little bit of footage here, but I just wanted to add a little bit of an extra something, just so it's not just a plain old green with nothing onto it. And I even tried adding those swirlies to the back piece as well with the white, but I just felt it was a little too much. And it always is a little bit of a balance on knowing how much is too much and how much is too little. I'm a little bit of an overachiever at times, but it's definitely important to know when you're going a little too far with the details. As I'm painting this bow, I'm also trying to keep in mind my light source, which should be the top of the deer, and I'm trying to keep all of the details in this painting as flowy as I can, if they allow me to. Obviously, a stiff object like this piece of wooden board, that cannot be so flowy, but the rest, like the bell and the little cloth pieces, I really wanted to help give it that sense of movement to the viewer. And as promised, I am back on this bell, making a little bit of some adjustments. I will be going back to it again to make further adjustments, but for now, I did fix up a little bit of that tangent that was happening with the elbow of that deer, and I also added these cloth pieces on the antler to make it a little bit more flowy and give it more interest. Before, without those pieces, the antler looked really bare and just kind of boring to me. So I wanted to add that extra detail just to make it a lot more fun. These feather pieces that I've added on the hooves also were just, they were so much fun to draw and, render them out a little bit more. I do clean them up even further later on, but please let me know if you enjoyed that decision that I made to add a little bit of those bird feather motifs on this painting. I am continuing to render these ribbon pieces throughout the antlers, and I will be adding even more detail to these antlers. They still feel a little dull to me, but finally I also fixed the issue that this gold just was so dull before. So I really went in and rendered a proper gold for these bells on the deer. It needed a little bling. It needed more vibrancy, and I also wanted to make, especially that giant bell, the main one, I wanted it to look a little bit worn, like it's the bell that they've worn so many times now. And maybe just the smaller round bells, those are the ones that get changed out every once in a while, but that main bell is almost like a badge of honor and they don't ever change it. At least that was the story I made up in my head, and I added those little imperfections to that one bell, if that makes sense. I also decided to add these holly leaves on the antler. Again, I just felt like those antlers were so bare, like they needed something. Because I really didn't want this Rudolph to feel plain at all. I wanted him to be very, very decorative and, ready for this season. And I think at the very end, these leaves really added a lot of interest to those antlers, and it looked a lot more finished to me. Apparently, as you can see, I really enjoyed drawing these bells, and I just had to add some to those antlers. I just felt like it added a little something extra to this painting, and I really liked how it sort of just wrapped it all together. At this point, we are pretty much done with most of the rendering. Here I decided to add a little bit more shadows, and I'm gonna be changing the light a little bit, and just I'm on those final touches and final details for this piece, and I just had a lot of fun drawing it, even though I did go through a couple hiccups here and there, but that's with every painting. You always have to figure things out, and that's part of the fun. On these last few steps, I'm also taking my time on this face and making sure that it really pops, that it has all those final little details. I'm putting in those final highlights, and just really finishing up this piece as much as possible before we get into the lettering. So for the calligraphy, I really wanted it to be vintage yet with a handwritten feel to it, and I definitely wanted to support how flowy the deer feels. So I did the D myself, and I used the font that I chose as a bit of a support for the D that I drew. As far as what is written on here, it of course says Dare to Be Different. I just thought this would be so perfect for Rudolph. After all, he was the different one, with his red shiny nose, and he proved to everyone that being different is great and is valuable and that you should be yourself. So I really loved this idea to have this written underneath him. And another thing, I just love drawing stars. So we talked about the blushing on my drawings. We also gotta talk about the stars. Something about it, I just think it adds a little something. I just think it looks very cute. If I'm honest, if I can find an excuse to add a little bit of stars in my drawings, you bet I will add those stars to my drawings. Just, like I said, something about it. Don't ask me what it is. I don't know. I have no idea. I just think it's adorable. You guys let me know if you have these weird quirks in your drawings as well, where you really like stars or you really like to add certain things to your drawings. You guys let me know. I can't be the only one. I mean, I can't be. I truly refuse to believe that's true. Now, I actually was debating if I should keep this section in the video. You guys let me know if you enjoyed more of the calligraphy and lettering parts of these pieces whenever they have one. Not all of my drawings have this, but if they do, it's definitely a question if you guys enjoy watching this part of the process or not. I definitely debated removing it or not, but my husband told me otherwise, so here we are. I hope you enjoy it. On the subject of just asking for general feedback, please let me know if you enjoyed the longer, like 35-minute long video, or if you prefer something a little bit shorter. This was very sped up. Originally, this was well over an hour, but I really hope this was entertaining to watch in some way. We are almost finished with this drawing, and I just want to thank you all for taking this time to watch my video all the way through and listening to me talk about my process, and also having some random tangents here and there. I hope that wasn't too terrible, but just let me know what you'd like to see more of in the future. If you really enjoyed, feel free to leave a like if you'd like. Again, this is my very first video, so I'm hoping to make more because this was pretty fun. And again, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it.